introduce Rafaela Isidori.
Also known as the lazy speaker.
The lazy speaker who's come all the way from Italy to give her talk today.
Yeah.
Yeah. A bit rushed and stressed last night, but she's fine today. So Rafaela is very involved in the WordPress community. She's a designer, a creative polyglot.
Yeah.
That be correct? And she's designing, consulting, and building brands, optimizing the communication for businesses around the world, and producing events. Rafaela, well, apart from being lazy, she loves cats.
Yeah,
correct?
I do. I heard cats.
Pardon? You heard
I heard
cats?
cats, yeah. I have like 15.
Well, anyway. So Rafaela's talk today is Mindful Design, Designing with Presence for Purpose and Inclusion. I hope you enjoy.
Thank you, Leslie. Ready for this? Dig Witch, Dublin. Huh? That was cool. I've been practicing this for I was on internet looking for, the right way to say this. Show me hands. How many of you have heard the word mindfulness? All of you, right. And how many of you know what mindfulness is or what it means? Okay. And how many of you practice mindfulness? Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So mindfulness it's a pretty straightforward word. It suggests that the mind is fully attending to what's happening, to what you're doing, to what you're feeling, and to the space that you are in and you're living in. And although this may seem trivial, it's actually not an easy thing to do, especially for the untrained mind. So today I want to do 3 things. I want to tell you a little bit about mindfulness and my relationship with mindfulness. And I want to tell you a little bit about what mindfulness practice is. And I want to show you how these principles can be applied to the practice of design to make work that is more meaningful, that it's more inclusive, and that it's more valuable. Before I start, though, a word about gratitude. Gratitude is one of the pillars on which mindfulness is based, and it's a practice we don't practice enough. So first of all, I want to thank the organizers for having me and for allowing me to talk about something that's really dear to me. And then I want to once again thank Joost, who has been a very strong supporter of my speaking activities. I'm a freelancer, so I would not be able to go and speak in so many places had I to fully fund myself. And Joost has set up a diversity fund. You can Google about it. And they allow a lot of speakers like me to go and speak and bring their voices and their experiences in places and share it with you. So if you find any value today in my talk, know that without them, I wouldn't be here. So be grateful to them. So now, I am Rafaela Isidori. I define myself now, because I'm trendy, a creative polymath, because I do a lot of things, and I've been doing that for a long time, so I managed to get okay at quite a few of them. I am a very recent social entrepreneur, because I'm starting a project that is a social startup, and I'm really excited about that. And I am a mindfulness practitioner. So let me show you something, and let me have your hands for feedback, okay? Who's familiar with any of this? So anger, anxiety, fear, frustration, panic, stress, rage, fury. I call it the unleashed monster. And it happens. Sometimes often, sometimes not so often, but still it happens and it has consequences. And what about this? Who's familiar with this? Okay. It has a name. It's called mental rumination, and it's a killer. Rumination refers to the tendency to repetitively think about the causes, the situational factors, and the consequences of one's negative emotional experience. So something happens, and we just rehash it and rehash it and rehash it, and we analyze it and we think about it, and we sound like boiling pots of beans or coffee if you come to Italy. Basically, rumination means that you continuously think about different aspects of things that are upsetting you over and over and over and over and over. And if you know someone like this, I did, okay? I used to do this very often. I do less of it because mindfulness helps you not do this. So I do this a lot less lately. But I was basically a professional warrior for about 47 of my 53 years. That's quite a lot. I was an anxious child, and that's a long time to be, a warrior. And the result of it was I was constantly physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted. So it was kind of like this, but not as cute. It was more like this, okay? I battled with depression, with anxiety, with paralyzing fear, with panic attacks. And I have been self-employed basically since I got out of college, which is about 30 years ago. And as a self-employed sole provider, it's not easy. It's not like you can take time off to chill and relax. And I needed a solution to overcome, not simply to cope. I mean, I coped with it for a very long time, but it wasn't really helping. So I wanted this, which, is there any way we can turn these lights off? Anyway, I wanted this, which is basically Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks. So I wanted this. This was my ideal, right? And I was like this. And I just felt like, okay, that meditation stuff is just stuff for, like, I don't know, superheroes, or they're faking it, and it's just out of my reach. Because like many people, I thought that you could just turn a button in your head and it would just go off like the mute volume on the TV, and it doesn't work that way. Anyway, so I have a very strong instinct, and I kind of cultivated that all of my life, and my instinct pointed me towards something that I later learned it's considered a mindful practice, actually a very powerful one, which is coloring. And I realized that coloring provided relief and made me feel peaceful. And then I realized that that peace that I felt was because it shut off that continuous chatter inside. So it was so helpful, and I was like, whoa, this is brilliant, right? So I want to make my own coloring books. And so I started working on my coloring books, and doing research on that, I came across this word for the first time, mindfulness. And I was like, whoa. So mindfulness, it's considered a quality of the mind. So as such, is not easy to define in a single encompassing one-size-fits-all description. I like to define it as a state of full awareness or intentional presence. But this is an official overall definition. Mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present aware of where we are and of what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. The same term mindfulness also refers to the cultivation of this basic human ability through various methods, which include meditation, mindful movement, mindful eating, coloring, journaling, and more. And we call this mindfulness practice to distinguish it from the basic ability. In practice, intention is the key. So mindfulness can be considered a state of intentional awareness, achieved by focusing our attention on the present moment or activity. The goal is to remain in the here and now, not in the past, where regret lives, and not in the future, which is only potential and gives us anxiety. In the here and now, there are no reactions to events, nor there's judgment. There's only observation. And for clarity, for those of you who may not know, mindfulness has nothing to do with religion or spirituality, although praying is a form of mindfulness practice. So this is Jon Kabat-Zinn. I don't know, some of you may know him. He's generally recognized as the father of what we call mindfulness practice. In 1979, Kabat-Zinn started recruiting chronically ill patients who were not responding well to traditional treatments, and asked them to participate in a newly formed 8-week stress reduction program. Today, that program is successfully used worldwide, and it's referred to as mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR. So what did practicing mindfulness do for me? First of all, I stopped ruminating, which was no easy task, and I went from this to this, the beautiful state of quiet, where I can rest and recharge. This has helped me build my resilience and my ability to face and embrace discomfort. Then I learned to pay focused attention to the moment I'm leaving, to remain in the here and now. When was the last moment you stopped and cherished the moment? And you were not taking a picture of it, Instagramming it, tweeting about it, making a story from it, and simply enjoy it and making it yours. That's something to think. I would not do this before. Most important, I learned to let go. And I freed myself from the need to control everything that happens outside of me. This is a very hard skill to learn. Control is pacifying until it becomes highly stressful, or better. Control is pacifying when we learn to control how we react to emotional stimuli. Unfortunately, we generally tend to try and control people and situations. And that's basically impossible, and it also freaks us out because it just doesn't work, and it's very stressful. Then I learned to create a mental condition of peace and harmony. And I cannot tell you how much this has improved my well-being, my relationship, especially the ones that I can't really choose, like family or clients. Because it's hard to know where to go when the chatter inside of you is so loud that it's confusing and deafening. I've learned that thoughts are not real. This is very powerful. Thoughts are only ideas in our head. What makes a thought feel real is the attention we bring to it. When we lose the ability to see the difference between what we think and what is real, managing our emotions can become incredibly difficult. We turn a thought into a solid object by focusing on it, or better, obsessing over it. and by relating to it as if it's an event that it's actually happening somewhere. When we focus our attention elsewhere, we are able to put some distance and see our thoughts from afar in a more detached way, so we can see the difference and act accordingly. I've opened myself up to synchronicity because when it's quiet inside, you can listen to what's going on outside. So practicing mindfulness has helped me through the most difficult time of my life. And it helped me heal. It helped me gain the clarity and insight to see the broken pieces, to choose which ones to keep and put back, and also to choose where to put them to rebuild a better me. I know you're thinking, like, this is awesome. So where's the design part of it, right? So like mindfulness, design is a practice. And with design, brief disclaimer, I mean any planned activity, not a decorative endeavor. So coding is designing, business is designing, lives are designed. A practice is an activity that finds its value in its application, as opposed to a theory. Design is a process, not an outcome. So applying the conditions and the values of mindfulness to the practice of design, along with applying the principles at the base of mindfulness practice, creates better, more meaningful work. Let me explain what I mean. In mindfulness practice, presence and awareness are the two basic conditions in which to operate. They're not just principles, they're just basic requirements for a mindful experience. It's hard to have a mindful experience without presence and awareness. Too often, always, we act automatically without much awareness or any awareness, and we fail to see what and who surrounds us. So we need to stop operating on autopilot and regain presence in the moment. When we design on autopilot, our results are partial, incomplete, lacking creativity, originality, care, and innovation. Going through the motions of design is not design, and there can be no true design process if our intention and our attention are not in it. When we design with presence, our products gain meaning and reflect attention for the user. Compassion and gratitude are the fundamental values of mindfulness. When we design with compassion and gratitude, our products are inherently accessible and meaningful and usable and valuable. So we have the basic conditions of for mindfulness, which are presence and awareness. And we have the basic values of mindfulness, which are compassion and gratitude. Let's look at the 7 pillars of mindfulness practice and see how they can be applied to a valuable design practice. The first principle of mindfulness is to avoid being judgmental. Judgment tends to dominate our mind and makes it hard for us to find peace. It also immediately adds bias to any decision. Suspending judgment, especially towards ourselves, allows us a more neutral and open approach, one that welcomes creativity and innovation. When we forgo judgment, we don't elaborate on our experience, we simply live it as it is, observing and letting it pass. In design, this translates in a higher listening capacity and a more open mind. It reduces our resistance to the unknown and helps us overcome bias. It allows for real empathy, so we can truly design for the user. And being non-judgmental also muzzles the imposter's voice, which is someone that I think all of us know, or at least the unlucky majority. And without that inner critic, we can be fearlessly creative. We can really be who we are meant to be. Judgment also breeds intolerance. Intolerance inhibits inclusion and produces results that are myopic and limited and mediocre. Judgment can turn us from producers of innovation and good to deaf and callous executors. The second principle in mindfulness practice is patience. To be patient is simply to be completely in each moment, accepting it in its fullness. And while we need to be patient with others, we mostly need patience with ourselves. Hurry and impatience take us away from the here and now. They breed anxiety and intolerance. In design, hurry is quality's worst enemy. When hurried, thoughts are unclear, processes muddled, solutions arranged haphazardly just to get it done. Anxiety makes our products unresolved and unsuccessful. Intolerance makes our products biased, blind, and insensible. Quality takes time, but it's not the quantity of time that matters. It's its quality. The time we spend on designing something needs to be focused, intentional, and dedicated. It needs to be mindful time. A patient and open approach is a loving approach. It fosters empathy and always produces quality. A patient approach is at the base of a compassionate practice, which is inherently inclusive and meaningful and valuable. And an experience designed with compassion will inevitably be a better one. SHOSHIN is a word from Zen Buddhism. It means a beginner's mind. It refers to holding an attitude of openness and eagerness and lack of preconception when studying a subject, especially when we are studying at a very advanced level. Maintaining a beginner's mind is fundamental to stay innovative and creative, approaching each process as if it were the first time. So SHOSHIN is keeping a beginner's mind. Innovation and creativity require SHOSHIN, as they require staying open to new and different approaches, opinions, ideas, and methods. The fourth principle is trust. Learning to trust our own experience, feelings, and intuitions frees us from the tyranny of authority and inner harsh judgment. Remember our friend the imposter? It's this trust in ourselves and in what we're leaving that gives us the courage to dare to be our true, most awesome selves. When we design, we must trust ourselves. It is in this trust in our knowledge, in our competence, in our talent, in our intuition, that lies innovation. It is a solid and complete trust in ourselves and in our abilities that gives us the strength to push boundaries, to break rules, and to live for uncharted territories. The fifth principle, very hard, is one of non-striving. In life, almost everything we do for a reason, for a purpose, to get something or to get somewhere. But in meditation, as well as in design, this attitude can be a real obstacle. This is one of the hardest principles to apply. In mindfulness practice, the attitude of non-striving is best understood as not forcing for a result. Non-doing, non-pushing, non-manipulating and forcing events to get what we want. Very hard. It implies of letting go of control and opening up to inspiration. When practicing design, not pushing the final result in the direction we want or we think it should go in allows us to avoid limiting ourselves. It allows for inspiration and creativity and leaves room for the unexpected. It produces honest work. If there's an agenda behind what we do, it will skew results. And most likely, it will be felt. Maybe not see, but felt. So, this is huge. Letting go, it's the hardest principle to apply for many of us. But for real change, accepting things as they are is unavoidable. Acceptance is about attending to one's experience with clarity and kindness. Sometimes things don't go as we'd like. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we make mistakes. At times, irreparable mistakes. We are a work in progress. We can only do our best with the best, most honest intentions. As designers, a kind awareness and a gentle acceptance of our limits are the keys to see ourselves and the work we are doing with clarity. This is the only way we can grow as humans and as professionals, and to create more valuable products. It is our uniqueness with all its limits that roots our creativity and creates opportunities for new solutions. It's the acceptance of the diverse that roots our sense of ethics, justice, meaning, and goodness, which I guess is something we really need right now in our industry especially. The last principle is one of letting go or non-attachment. And although it's not easy, cultivating the attitude of letting go, it's fundamental to the practice of mindfulness. It also helps us preserve our mental health. While it feels natural wanting to hold on to what we perceive as pleasurable, and to reject what we assume or feel as unpleasant, it is often only a learned automatic response. Letting go is hard. Letting go things that we lose, people, the need to control others, our need to judge, expectations. And yet, of all things, letting go is the most transformative thing we can do. Because you can't move forward if you're unwilling to leave something behind. So what's letting go in design? First of all, reducing expectations on us and on others, on results, performance, consensus, on people's opinion and appreciation. Letting go in the design process leaves room for inspiration and casualty and the unknown. You can't bring in anything new if there's no room for it. It's hard to innovate if you can't let go what has been done before. Letting go also means accepting our lack of control on external elements. It preserves energy. It gives us the clarity and focus to handle better the unexpected events and the opportunities they always bring with them. Letting go fosters the ability to turn obstacles in opportunities and limits in strengths. Practicing mindfulness is not difficult, has no particular requirements other than an open mind and a wish for serenity. There are books, websites, and apps that can help you in your baby steps. And as I've told you, for me, becoming a mindfulness practitioner along with practicing compassion and gratitude towards both myself and others, has greatly contributed to my becoming a better designer, a better professional. It added meaning and sparkle to my work. It also kind of made me a little bit nicer to be around. So I want to thank you. I want to thank the organizer of WordCamp Dublin for being able to be here and tell you my story, and to Joost for their continued support. And I hope I've tickled your curiosity and maybe inspired you some. My goal in much of my work is raising awareness, because we can only address what we see and we become aware of. So I hope that introducing mindfulness in your life and in your work can help you as much as it helped me. And there's no way I'm going to say this, but thank you. I'm very grateful for this.
Thank you, Raphael. I really enjoyed that talk.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? We're all chilled out now.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Well, yes.
Can you be my friend?
Of course.
Too late.
Of course. Of course. That's me. Look me up.
I'm already out with you.
Good. Good.
Just need to say yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely. If you don't have questions now and you have them later, find me, stop me. You do have a question. Awesome.
Yeah. So this is something that I'm sometimes criticized because it comes a little bit easier for me to be in the present, and sometimes I don't pay enough attention to the future. Conversely, I have a hard time helping people kind of focus on the moment, because it's something that I'm just more inclined to do. How do you help people when you sense that they need some attention to the now?
That's a good question.
Very good question. You can try and talk to them. What I try to do with friends and family, I try, first of all, I listen to them mindfully, really listening, because sometimes people just need to vent. Someone that's in the future, it's anxious because they already have this movie played out, and it's usually a horror/terror/doom movie. No one has these movies where, no romances. They're all like horrible stories where everyone dies at the end in bad ways. And when you're not in there, you're like, no, but if you just say no, people are like, oh, you just don't understand, So what I try to do is I try and listen to them, and I try to sort of gently curb them back to rationality. Rationality is a good grounder, It's like, well, yes, this could happen, but also this could happen. So, you could get fired, but maybe not, in the big realm of all the scenarios that you're creating, you're failing to create the positive ones. You're just creating those horrible, bad-ending terror movies. And then you just kind of really try to nudge them, but also accept the fact that sometimes people just need to vent, and sometimes they're just scared and they just need to be allowed to freak out. And then, of course, if they get too much or if they get really negative, you are also allowed to step back and say, I'm not going with you to this horror movie thing, because it's a bad place and I don't want to be there. So you listen to them and you open, and you also, though, stay you yourself in your here and now, because sometimes they can kind of hook you and take you to this like really horrible place where horrible things happen.
Yeah, that's part of why I ask, because sometimes like I end up somewhere like
Yeah.
feeling anxious, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wait,
Yeah,
why am I?
yeah. And also, we are generally trained to like be nice to people. So you feel like, oh, if I move away, they're going to feel, they're going to hate me or dislike me. But again, there's a balance where my mental health is as important, if not maybe more important, than your mental health. So I'll really help you unless you really want, a companion for this doom movie, and I don't want to be there, So I'll help you come out. I don't want to stay in there with you. And it's perfectly fine to say no. Say no. It's something that we're all trained as a horrible thing. Horrible, nasty, egoistic people say no. Wrong. People that have clear boundaries say no. And they don't hate you because they say no. They say no if they're honest. And they're just like, I don't want to do this. So no. No.
It's like we skipped that beginner's mindset step because it seems too basic and race ahead.
Yes, but also, we are socially conditioned, women especially. Women that say no are, I always have to remember that I can't say nasty words, which are a large part of my vocabulary. So it's always like, oh God, no, oh, I can't say that. Oh, so women that say no are not nice, right? Men that say no are assertive. Women that say no are B words, right? And still, people that say no, or at least in my experience, for a very long time, I always felt that if I said no to someone, they would dislike me. And then I learned that when you say no, people just go, okay, I'll ask somebody else, or I'll do it myself, or it's okay. And I also learned that if I say no to you and you think that I'm a B word because I say no to you, then I have to reevaluate our relationship. Because if our relationship is based on the fact that I say yes all the time and I do things for you and I solve problems for you, and when I'm not available for that, then I'm the B word, then maybe you're not my friend. Maybe you need to be pushed out a little bit. Maybe you're not a positive, healthy presence in my life. And because, hey, B word rules. I mean, does that help?
There's no B's in here.
Yeah. But I mean, there's B's and assertives. It's just the way. It's the same thing. It's just what we expect and what we are willing to tolerate. And so even just stepping back and asking ourselves, how come certain people, if they say no, we say, wow, they're cool. They're up there, they're unreachable. So I'm not even going to ask because I know it's going to be a no, right? And very often it's not. If you ask, they're very happy to say yes. And at the same time, other people, if they say no, we say, oh, I asked and they said no. I mean, can you believe that? So a lot of it's the color we give to things. And that's why the non-judgment comes in, and allows people to just be, who they are and what they are. And it's a lot better for someone to say an honest no to us than to someone to say a fake yes to us, which is going to turn up in a really bad, nasty, big no later down the line. Generally one that hurts more, because I thought you said yes. And you did say yes, but you didn't mean it. So now it's no, but it's a worse no than if you had just said no at the beginning. So it just gets complicated.
Okay, I think we'll...
if you have question, find me or ask me, or I think we may be out of time. I see a question there.
Okay,
I'll try to be
one quick
quick.
one.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciated your tenets of mindfulness. And I was curious, as we think about applying those in the design world, and specifically in the digital world, who do you think does a really good job of that? Are there any sort of, examples that you would point us to?
I don't know, because it's in the process. I would say that intentionally or not, I mean, some people can be, mindful even though they don't know they're mindful. So I think that if you see a product that it's ethical, that it's accessible, that takes care, that you kind of go, wow, see these, yeah, they get it. At some point, more or less intentional, they applied principles. I mean, these principles, they're like really kind of like good people principle. I mean, it's not like, ooh, mindfulness, if you kind of do this in your approach to designing a web, designing an app, designing anything, if you're just sort of being a nice person and you listen to the other people and you really don't kind of like roll over them or impose things on them or manipulate them, then you're really, it's obviously easier to find examples of those who don't, like Facebook, for example. Well, it's not, it's not a mindful product, it certainly, it didn't start with mindfulness, it didn't grow with mindfulness, it had a not very mindful, not very nice intention from the beginning. Now, I'm not saying that it's bad, I'm just saying that, it could evolve into something a bit better, maybe. Or we could just go do something else.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Coach,